Hi there, this is a tutorial for the Granny Go Round cardigan. I've had quite a few requests for this lately, so I thought I'd do one. And I'm going to use the original colours to make it easy for you to follow. So this tutorial is just going to walk you through the first 3 rows of your yoke, from the setup row down to these extension rows here for the front neck, just so you can see how those rows need to be worked. If we look on the inside, as you can see from this point here, where my rows have stopped increasing, I've actually floated my yarns up inside the inside of my cardigan. This is so that I don't have to cut the yarn at the end of each row and have loads of ends to weave in. So using yarn A, which is the dark grey yarn, I've chained the correct amount of chains for my size, and I've double crocheted into each chain, and I'm going to snip my yarn and fasten off. So this is UK double crochet, US single crochet. Okay, so this is your setup row, and you should have it with the right side facing up, so right side facing you, and you're just going to turn your setup row upside down to work your first row, row 1, which is the first row of granny stitch, which is groups of 3 UK trebles, 3 US doubles. Okay, so we've got our foundation chain running along the top, we've got our double crochet stitches, or the tops of our double crochet stitches along the bottom. You can see the V's there, which are the top of your stitch. And you're going to work those granny stitches over the top of this setup row and into the space between the 2 V's at the top of your double crochet and the rest of the stitch. So into that space there, you're going to work into this space here. See if I can show you there. Okay, so we're going to start by joining on yarn B into the end of our row. So you're going to join it just under the chain, or the very last chain that you worked. Get my hook in there. You might have 2 loops here, you might have 1 loop. Don't worry either way, it's just this first stitch. So bring yarn B in, tie it in a knot, and you are ready to work your first stitch. So to count as our first stitch, we're going to do 3 chain. So put your hook into the little space under the first chain and just chain 3. That counts as our first stitch. We're now going to yarn over and work our first treble crochet, UK treble crochet, US double crochet, into the space just above the 2 V's on the first, or should I say the last, double crochet that we worked. So we're going to go into there, I don't know if you can see where I've worked. There's the 2 V's, which was the last double crochet, and we've just gone into the space just above them. So we're now going to work 1 more stitch. So that's your 2 trebles, 2 UK trebles. So that's your first granny stitch group. Okay, so we've got 3 chain and 2 UK trebles. We're now going to miss 2 stitches, and we're going to do the same again. So you're going to miss that one, and you're going to work into the space just above the 2 V's on the next double crochet. So we're going to put 3 trebles into that space, and this is just to give the first row of granny stitches a sort of solid base to hang off of, really, because otherwise if we work right into the top, it kind of makes them quite gappy, that first row. Okay, so that's row 1 done. Doesn't look like much at the moment, and we fastened off yarn B at the end of row 1. Okay, so because we're working a cardigan and we're working rows back and forth, we're going to work right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side, etc. Unlike the granny go round jumper, which is worked in the round, so it's all right side facing, we are now going to turn over our work. So we've got the wrong side of row 1 facing you. Let me just refocus. And you're going to attach yarn C into the space between the first and second treble of the first group. We're calling this the first group. I mean, technically it's the last group of that row, but it's the first group you come to when you're working row 2. So that's the first treble, that's the second treble. That space there is where we're going to attach yarn C, sorry. So we'll just pull that one through. Okay, so now going to chain 3 to count as your first treble. So 1, 2, 3, and you're going to work 2 more trebles into that same space. Okay, so that's our first granny group of row 2. You're now going to work 2 trebles into the space between the second and the third stitch or treble in the group. So that's this space here. And this is our first raglan corner. So what we're going to do is, once we've worked those 2 trebles, is we're going to place a stitch marker into the space between those 2 trebles. Okay, so we're going to put a stitch marker in there, and that's so that we don't accidentally work past them or get them confused with the other 2 treble groups that will appear in row 2. So there are other 2 treble groups in this row. Work them as explained in the pattern. They are part of your shaping on the shoulder. Okay, but for now we're just going to work another 3 treble group into the space right after the 2 treble group. So in there. Oops. And then your next group goes in here, and then you're going to follow the pattern to the end of the row, and I will meet you at the other end with my 4 raglan groups marked. So I've got to the end of row 2, and I'm now going to work, I've got my last granny stitch group here, and I'm now going to work 2 treble in the space between the first and the second stitch, and that's my last raglan increase. So I'm going to put my stitch marker in there to mark my last raglan increase, my last corner, and then I'm going to work 3 treble in the space between the second and the third stitch, so into that space there. Okay, so let's just zoom you out. So we've got our raglan corner, we've got our shoulder decrease starting here with our 2 treble, same as we did for the granny go round jumper. We've got another raglan increase and another raglan increase there. So row 2 is starting to look a bit more like this.